What's going on, everybody? SeanPierceJohnson here, and today we are taking a look at the Binary Cab IR from Hotone. When it comes to pedal platform speaker simulators, the Binary Cab is probably one of the most flexible and most adjustable that I've run across. It's a very nice small format speaker simulator that has options galore to the point where you might even get a little bit of option paralysis. But it's a good kind of option paralysis where you have so many things to choose from that you find yourself exploring things a little bit more than you thought you would. So let's get into the controls and the features of what the Binary Cab offers us. Starting out, we only have two foot switches on this pedal, and they're basically an up and a down switch that allow you to cycle through the 100 banks, 100 presets that you can set on the Binary Cab. You can basically have 100 different cab mic power amp simulation combinations in this thing. It's insane. There are 100 different cabs to choose from. 100 banks for presets, 100 cabs. You could literally save your favorite of every cab type if you wanted to. Now, what's really cool is the controls very intuitively laid out and very easy to understand once you realize what their features are. On the left over here, you have the master volume. On the far right, you have the mic type to select between, I believe it's 8 to 10 different microphone options, everything from your classic SM57, MD421 Sennheiser to a Neumann U87 and even an AKG D112 and a few other obscure favorites for both bass and guitar cab miking. Now, these three knobs in the center here are X, Y, and Z, and they're very thoughtfully labeled in a bracket because these adjust the mic position. Now, if you remember from your 5th or 6th grade math class, on a chart or graph or something like that, you have your X and Y axis. Well, it's the same kind of thing. X is going to adjust the position of the virtual microphone on the virtual speaker on the horizontal plane. Y going to adjust the position on the vertical plane. And Z is a different axis. Z is essentially the distance of the virtual microphone from the virtual speaker. In the center of the pedal, we have a very nice screen that once the power is plugged in, it lights up very nice and bright. And although it looks small, even on a board, you'll still be able to read what's going on the Binary Cab when it's powered up. On the left-hand side, we have a plus and a minus button, which will allow us to cycle through the different speaker cabinet types. And when we get to the global section, the button of which is on the right side of the screen, cycle through the different power amp simulations, adjust the amount of power amp presence is there, as well as adding on the amount of recording room is heard on the speaker simulation. A very, very cool thing to add a certain sense of realism to the speaker simulator sounds. And when you finally want to set a preset and save it, just press and hold on the save exit button. Once you have that confirmation, go ahead, boom, press it again, and you're ready to roll. Now, on the back of the pedal, we have the inputs and outputs for the Binary Cab. We have an input, an aux input, our 9-volt power supply. Again, make sure that you have the proper amount of milliamperage on your power supply. This thing is going to need as much juice as it can get. It's a hefty digital pedal. There's also a USB input for updating firmware and interfacing with the binary software. We have a headphones output and the master output, which is an instrument cable. So if you want to send it to a live board or a mixing decks or recording interface or console, best bet would really be to plug this into a DI box before going into there so that you have your input and output gain staging sorted out correctly. So we've yacked enough about this thing. Let's go ahead, plug it in, and hear how this thing sounds. Now, there's almost too much in the cabs to really sit and demo for you, so I think the best way to put this to the test would be to just create a preset on the fly. So let's do it. All right, we're all hooked up and ready to build ourselves a preset. So the setup is going to be pretty much the same throughout this whole video. We're going to start with the guitar. I think the trusty Les Paul is a great place to start, but we'll probably bring in a couple other guitars later on in the video when I show you my favorite presets that I've come up with. First thing the guitar sees is a Boss TU3, because we got to be in tune. After that is going to be an assortment of different pedals and preamps, and what I have right now on the desk is the JHS Bonsai and the Carvin X1, which I really enjoy since it's a nice clean pedal platform preamp, but it also has a very classic American sound that I don't really have in my large format heads. It's a really nice sound. In the effects loop of the X1, I have the new X Atlantic doing reverb and delay duties, and when those come on, I will make sure to let you guys know that you are hearing that. And then out of the X1, we're going into the binary cab IR. So we're now going to build ourselves a preset, but I think first we need to hear exactly what we start out with in terms of a direct guitar. So to bypass the binary cab, just press down on both foot switches at the same time. You don't need to press and hold, just a single, there you go. Now let's unmute the guitar and listen to the direct signal that we have going into Pro Tools. Talk about uninspiring. So let's do something to change that up a little bit. Let's add in the Carvin X1 and see what that tube gain stage as well as some EQ is going to do for that rather sterile sounding direct guitar. Kind of sounds like a piezo pickup right now, which is kind of fun. But that doesn't really sound like a guitar amp, and we're trying to make it sound like a guitar amp. So let's go ahead and turn on the binary cab and see what that filtering effect from the speaker simulation does for that preamp sound. Boom. That's really nice. I like that a lot. Throw on the Bonsai, and as you can see, it says Dumb Bell. It's a Dumble 4x12 with Electro Voice speakers, and I just like it. Yeah. Just kind of has this nice little vibe to it, and the best part is, I don't know if you guys know this, but I don't own a Dumble, and I certainly don't own a Dumble speaker cabinet. So I have access to gear that I can't own right there. So now let's go ahead and get ourselves to an empty bank. Now I have several different presets that I saved that I'll show you later. Let's think about something that we want. Now I have, you know, a Dumble, I have an orange cab, I have some Marshall-y thing, and a couple different Fender style cabs. But I want something kind of raspy, something kind of, well, that doesn't quite sound like anything that I currently have in my collection. What I want is I want something like a Supro. I'm going to go ahead and start scrolling. Now, I already know where they are. They're on the higher side, so I don't want to keep pressing. There's 100 cabs in here, people. Like, we could be scrolling forever. There we go. Now we're in the territory. There we go. So, we have the Sup Zep. Very interesting choice of title. The Sup Verb, which actually isn't a super. It's a super reverb. It's not a Supro. We have a Supro Duo, and we have a Thunderbolt. I think I'm going to try this Zep one out first, which according to the very fine PDF that you can find on the website of Hotone is based on a vintage 1x6 Supro cabinet with an offset 6" by 9" speaker. What the heck is that? So let's see what we start out with. I kind of like it. Let's check out some of the other Supros that we got going on. like the Zepp. We're gonna keep it there. It has a very interesting quality to it that the others don't have. So now let's go ahead and check out the next logical step to me, and that we need to build the amplifier outside of the preamp. So going into the global section, we have the power amp type selection, and we have EL84s in both single-ended and push-pull. We have 6L6s, we have EL34s, we have KT88s in those two variations, or we could just not use them at all, which is pretty incredible, I think. So let's check out how those different power amps sound with the particular setting and on the binary cab and with our crunch tone from the X1. A Supro with KT88s. Dave Coltire, are you listening? I think we're gonna go with the single-ended EL84. I kind of like that extra little saggy chime. So we get a little bit of a voxy quality to this Supro cab and crunch sound. So let's keep going with it. Now we have in the global section the power amp presence, which is going to be sort of a high-end thing going on. So let's go ahead and scroll all the way down to 0, and I'll slowly start increasing it, and you can hear the tonal change. You know, I'm gonna go for a lower setting, maybe around 4. I think that'll be good. I just want a little bit, but I don't want it to get too harsh. I want to kind of tame some of that raspiness coming from a small speaker. Now the next step would be the room amount, which is a really cool feature that they've built into the binary cab. I feel like this particular adjustment just gives the cab simulations a little bit more realism. You can hear some perceived reverb. And as we increase it, it gets pretty darn long, and at its max, it's almost like you don't even need a reverb pedal. I'm only gonna add in a little bit, so I'll put it at 2. Now let's go ahead and select the microphone type. I like this feature that they show you what you previously had selected. Personally, I think I'm gonna go for an R121. It's a good microphone to have because it kind of warms up the sound a bit. And now we're gonna go to the position, which I've zeroed out, so they basically have no effect. X is going to affect everything on the horizontal plane, Y with the vertical, and Z with the distance from the virtual speaker. So I wanna warm it up and give it some space. I'm pretty happy with this. I like this a lot. So now what are we gonna do? We need to save it. So press and hold on the save exit button. And you're gonna see this flashing light. Now I will say that you're not gonna be able to just move away from this bank. Otherwise you lose everything that you just saved. I know because I just experienced this. I have 3 minutes left on both my cameras to finish this up. So yeah, it really kind of puts in this thing. Sorry, Hotone, I had to mention it, but this is still a very good sounding unit. So how do you save it? Just press that button again and it's saved. You can walk away from it all the way there and then come all the way back and boom, save. And it's a fairly easy thing to do. It's pretty good that you can have a very simple cab sim that has a lot of tweakability that makes you think about your guitar tone as a whole thing, you know, not just one aspect of it. So you definitely have this thing as a learning tool. So now we're gonna go ahead and see what some of my favorite cab sims are on the binary cab. So here are my presets. friends, is the Binary Cab IR from Hotone. A very cool unit, very compact, that I like a lot. We did run into one hiccup while filming this demo. When I had gotten to the end of a portion where I was going to show you guys how to create a preset, I had gone into the save function and was getting ready to select the bank that I wanted to save it to. Now, big problem is that once I clicked away because I wanted to save it to maybe a different bank than the one that I was on, it basically erased everything that I had done. It just went back into its normal operating mode and exited the save mode. So I basically had to restart that segment all over again. So that's a little bit of a knock to it. I wish that if I were, say, on bank 45, that if logically it made sense for me to save it to bank 8, I could just go ahead, cycle through the different preset banks and be able to save it to 8 and basically just do that from 45. And if I wanted to hear my saved preset, just cycle from 45 to 8 and it's there. So it's a little bit of a knock against it, but it still sounds good. It doesn't change that. What I really like about it, though, is that it causes you as a guitar player to think about your tone in ways that you probably never thought about it before. There's always this thing about chasing tone with guitar players. We tend to think about just the pieces of equipment that guitar players of yore and current day used. The guitars, the amps, the fuzz pedals, the treble boosters, this, the that, the other, but we don't often take into account what really was so special about those is not just the different speakers that were in the cabinets of those famous amplifiers, but also what kind of microphones were being used, where exactly that microphone was placed on the cab, and how far back it was from the speaker, because oftentimes they weren't just, right butt up on the speaker. So the fact that it really causes you as a guitar player to think differently is a really cool thing. I had a lot of fun exploring this particular pedal and also just getting to know some really obscure speakers that I have never heard before. To have some kind of digital approximation of it in a nice, easy to use pedal platform is something that I am all for. So thank you to the guys at Hotone for sending this my way. It's a great unit, and I think that if you guys get your hands on one and want to start checking it out, you will not be disappointed. And I would love to know what you guys thought of my demo and review of the Binary Cab. Please do leave your comments below and click the subscribe button so you don't miss the rest of the demos coming up. Thanks so much for joining me, and until next time, my friends, I'm Sean Pierce Johnson, wishing you all great tone and happy stomping. Cheers.